Hi all, welcome to the Brecon to Cardiff race brief. My name is Ben, I'm one of the race directors. So registration's on the Saturday evening, that's in Nantgarrow at the event base. The address is on the website. It runs between 5 and 8. Usually there's a big queue at the start at 5 o'clock. So if you want to avoid the queue, just come a little bit later. Please try to register on the Saturday if possible. This will speed things up on the Sunday morning. On the Sunday morning, we've got an emergency registration available at Nantgarrow between 5:30 and 6 a.m. The buses then will collect from Nantgarrow at 6:15. They'll be lined up just alongside the car park. It's a nice, obvious place to collect. There'll be marshals on hand to show you where to go. When you arrive in Brecon, we've got an indoor area in the theatre where you'll be fitted with your GPS tracker. Please make sure you don't start the race until you have your tracker fitted. This also works as the timing, so if you want to time, you need to have your GPS tracker fitted. There'll be a short race brief on the start line, so try and be on the start line at 10 to 8, ready for a race start at 8 a.m. And then the overall cut-off time for the race is at 8 p.m. in Nantgarrow. If you've pre-booked the registration in Brecon because you're staying in Brecon or live close to Brecon and are going straight there, you should have already pre-booked that. That runs from 7 a.m. to 7:15. Okay, and that'll be in the theatre. Please ensure you have the latest GPS trace on your device. It was updated at the end of last week when we sent out the pre-event email. Just make sure you're not using one from previous years. It is part of the compulsory kit to have the route on a device, be that your phone, a watch, or a handheld device. If you don't have that sorted yet, then there is a guidance video on our YouTube site showing how to use a simple app. The course is marked at major junctions with either orange tape or yellow running arrows. And the course generally follows the marked Taff Trail cycle route, with those permanent blue Taff Trail markers and blue Cycle Path 8 signs. Please remember there are 2 races taking part on Sunday, so just make sure you follow the classic route and not the extreme route. One runner last year who blindly followed an extreme runner just after leaving the Ponty checkpoint. So he followed him up the last hill, and despite me calling him several times on his race phone, he didn't answer, so ended up adding an extra couple of hundred meters of elevation to his race. It did make excellent dot watching, but that just highlights another point. Just make sure your race phone that you're carrying is switched on and accessible. And if you are going off track, we will give you a buzz. So there are no route markings between the start of the race and checkpoint 1. The route follows the canal towpath. It literally hugs the canal all the way along. It's important to remember that once you've hit checkpoint 1, approximately 100 meters past the checkpoint, you'll be taking a bridge over the canal, leave that canal towpath and head up the Taff Trail into the forestry. So sometimes those markers do get blown down or they get vandalized, and sometimes they get taken down by a well-meaning local. When you leave the Taff Trail, we do overload it with extra signs, but it's important to keep an eye on your GPS trace or your race map, just an eye of your whereabouts. If in doubt, just give us a call on the race number that's on your map, and you should be loading that onto your phone. We have people watching the trackers all the time. If we do see you going off route, we will give you a call, so just make sure your phone is switched on. So we've been asked to relay a couple of points from the Canal and Riverside Trust, who manage the Brecon Canal towpath. So at the start, the path is narrow, so just be careful to be running in single file. Please keep the noise down at the start of the race. We are in Brecon Town Centre and it is early. As you're running along that canal towpath, please keep to the left and give way to other path users. There's not very many people on at that time in the morning, but just please give way They've asked us to watch out for low bridges. There are some low bridges on the route, so you will have to duck. Finally, if you do fall in the canal, please look out for signs and symptoms of Wells disease over the next couple of weeks. So there are 5 checkpoints along the route. You must report to each checkpoint. You can't skip a checkpoint or miss it. Checkpoints have a mix of water, energy drinks, squash, a mixture of snacks, fruit, crisps, sandwiches, that sort of thing. Checkpoint 3 and checkpoint 5 are both indoors. So if you can have a slightly longer stop, that's the time to have it. Checkpoint 3 is in Merthyr College, and that's also where you receive your drop bag. And most people will put road shoes or a more comfy pair of shoes in their drop bag to wear for the second half of the route. One is in Taliban on Usk. As I mentioned, it's a quick 7 miles along the towpath. The checkpoint is literally on the route. It's on the side of the towpath, so you quite literally run into the checkpoint. Most people, especially those who are racing it, you'll be going quite quick at that stage, and often the front runners will just blast straight through that checkpoint. But just to highlight, there is a long, steady uphill section into the Brecon beacons straight after that checkpoint, so it's worth grabbing some water and energy snacks to keep you going if you need it. As I just mentioned as well, just make sure 100 meters after the checkpoint, you take that turning over the canal and head up into the forest. And please, for your supporters, it is vital that they don't park in the pub car parks. The landlordy will be out bashing you if they are. So just ask them to avoid parking in the pub car parks. There are public toilets in the village hall, which is approximately 100 metres before the checkpoint on the opposite side of the road. It costs 20p, so you need a coin, or you can use a card or phone pay, such as Apple Pay. Checkpoint 2 is at 16 miles. It's in the same location as last year, if you did it last year. If you have run it pre-2024, the checkpoint is about 200 metres further along the route. It's now in the forest path entrance as you enter the forest. It is a very small area for cars to park, so please ask supporters to avoid parking here. It's a checkpoint for both races, the Classic and the Extreme. If your supporters want to see you in the Brecon Beacons, they should push up the road section a bit, or they should wait and see you as you come in towards Merthyr Tydfil. Checkpoint 3 is in Merthyr College. It's a great checkpoint. There is always a great atmosphere in there. It offers you a chance to have a short break, change shoes, sort yourself out if you need to, sort yourself out if you've had a hard first half of the race. As you enter, please follow the guidance of the marshals and only go into the competitor area. It's a big area, so just make sure you're going into the competitor area. You get your drop bags here. The checkpoint here is shared with the extreme runners on the extreme course. So when you leave the checkpoint, make sure that you follow the classic course and you're on your course going along the Taff Trail, and that you don't follow the extreme course, which basically leaves the checkpoint and just heads uphill. And the cut-off time here is at 1500, 3 p.m. So for your drop bag, you will be given a drawstring shoe bag at Merthyr for you to put a change of shoes in and whatever else you can fit into it. These will then be collected from you at Brecon just before the race start and transported to checkpoint 3 at Merthyr College. You must use the bag provided and all your kit must fit into it. We do not have the capacity to transport larger bags, so if you do turn up with a larger bag, then you will have to carry it back to Cardiff. For illustration, this shows you the size of the drop bag with a large pair of size 9.5 hockers, spare socks, spare leggings, spare winter base layer, spare t-shirt, some additional energy products for the second half of the race, and some tape for blisters and some body glide and lip balm. So these will packed into the drop bag comfortably, and there's space for a little bit more if you needed to. Please don't leave valuables or breakable items in the bag, and the bags are left at your own risk. So checkpoint 4 is at Aberfan. It's the same location as in 2023. It's just before you pass under the A470. You go under the underpass on the Taff Trail. Again, as long as you're on the Taff Trail and the GPS route, you'll literally fall into the checkpoint. Again, it's another location. It's important there's no supporters to this checkpoint. It's a residential area. There's just not enough space to get to. Supporters are better off pushing down the route slightly to see you further along. The cut-off here is at 4:45. Checkpoint 5 is in Pontypridd in the world famous Tronc Cafe. Margaret and Tronc and the local team will look after you here. It's a nice indoor checkpoint in Trelwyn Community Centre. It's slightly further down the route if you did it pre-2023, but it is the same location that we used last year. It's a good indoor checkpoint and it gives you a chance to go in, sort yourself out, ready for that last push down to the finish in Cardiff. It's also the same route as went through the residential area as last year, but if you've done it in previous years, this is a different route, so just make sure you've got the latest GPS route. And the cut-off at checkpoint 5 is at 18:30. So into the race finish. So from the Taff Trail to the finish in Garrow, this will be well signposted. Key point here is that once you've left the cycle path Taff Trail, is that you shouldn't be crossing over Caerphilly Road. You can see on the map there, which is a pedestrian crossing. It continues you on the Taff Trail. So you're leaving the Taff Trail. There on that map, you can see the purple dots which show the Taff Trail. We're dropping down through Nangaroo and into the race finish. The most important thing at the finish, really, for everybody, is just to ensure you have a warm change of clothes and a warm jacket for the finish. The amount of times we see people just come to the finish, they finish the race, they've just got their running kit on, they're soaking wet, they start to walk back to their car, and that's when the shivers and the dangers of hypothermia start to kick in. Okay, so change of clothes is a must. You can leave that change of clothes in Nangaroo in the finish location when you register or when you collect the buses in the morning, so there'll be a space to leave a bag for clothing there. So moving on to some course safety. With road crossings, please take care when crossing roads. Make sure you're following the highway code. When you're on those roads, it's your responsibility to cross roads safely. Please don't fall in the canal. If you need first aid, physio or medical assistance, please call the number on the map and we'll arrange for help to come to you. This is a compulsory kit that you should already be aware of. You must carry all parts of that kit at all times. I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of key points on that. You must carry a thick upper body long sleeve mid layer or 2 long sleeve winter base layers. The minimum combined weight of 300 grams. So these should be in your bag when you start running. Okay, so if you're wearing one of those base layers, when you cross the line, you need another one. So in your backpack, when you start running along that canal path, you must have 300 grams of mid layers in your pack. You also need to make sure that your waterproof top and bottoms have taped seams. All of this will be checked at kit check. So before you receive your race number at registration, you will need to pass through kit check. So make sure you bring your kit to registration. So you should pack all that compulsory safety kit into a waterproof plastic bag or a dry bag to keep it dry so that it's dry and works when you need it. Just remember, the compulsory kit is the minimum required. So if you get cold easily, you should ensure you're carrying a little bit more. The kit list can be found on the website. So before we finish, I'm just going to talk a bit about hypothermia and cold injuries. In 2022, conditions were really bad, really wet, really windy. We had a number of incidents of runners and individuals having mild hypothermia. We had several people dropping out of the race just because they didn't carry enough warm kit with them. Okay, it's hence why we have kit checks on the course, kit checks before you can register. So this information is from the NHS website on hypothermia. Hypothermia is a dangerous drop in body temperature below 35 degrees C, which normal body temperature is 37 degrees. A medical emergency, needs to be treated in the hospital. If you think someone has hypothermia or they have any of the signs, shivering, pale or cold or dry skin, blue lips, slurred speech, slow breathing, tiredness or confusion. So the key thing for us on the race is to avoid getting hypothermia. Minimize the risk of getting hypothermia. You can get hypothermia if you don't have enough clothes in cold weather. Deal with that with the compulsory kit. You stay out in the cold too long, again that's a risk for us. Fall into cold water, or vitally for us, you get soaked from rain or importantly from sweat. Even if it's not raining, it's cold and windy, typical Welsh winter weather. If you've been running and you're sweaty and then you start to slow down because you've got muscle soreness or you just can't move quick enough, you can start to go down quite quickly in this winter weather. The best treatment for hypothermia is to avoid getting it in the first place. Okay, so we're just highlighting the importance of bringing enough kit, making sure that if you are getting cold, you change into some drier kit, and also that you change into that dry kit at the finish. So if you do find yourself getting cold or are awaiting collection, things to do: make sure you move yourself into shelter. Indoors is best. Inside a bus shelter, just get out of the conditions. Key is to remove any wet clothing. This is why it's important that your kit is kept in a dry bag, in a plastic bag, in your rucksack. Okay, the quickest way to get warm again, get rid of any wet clothing. You'll instantly start to warm up. Wrap yourself in a full blanket or one of our sleeping bags, dry towel, making sure your head is covered or their head is covered. But make sure, again, get rid of that wet clothing is the quickest way to start to warm up. You can have a warm non-alcoholic drink, some sugary food like chocolate if they're awake. Keep any casualties awake by talking to them until further help arrives. And make sure someone is with them. Okay, if you are dealing with someone on the course, you will be given time credits, but get some help as quick as possible. It's important not to warm people up using hot baths, hot water bottles, or heat lamps, or radiators. If you're cold, we need to warm them up slowly, okay, just to bring the body temperature up slowly. Don't rub their arms, their legs, their feet, or their hands, and no alcohol. If you're injured, if you feel unwell, if you need assistance, report to a checkpoint or just give us a call on the emergency number. The number's on the map that's provided to you at registration. And if you're slowing down and heading to the checkpoint, just put your warm kit on. Even if you need to, just call that emergency number. We can keep monitoring you on the GPS trackers, or send someone out to come and help or collect you. If you find someone injured on the course, please offer assistance. It's important we're looking after each other out on the courses. According to Race HQ, numbers on the map. Any time lost through helping another runner who is seriously injured will be recredited. But just on that note, I just want to highlight that it needs to be called in at the earliest opportunity and it needs to be a proper injury. So in the past, we've had people come into the checkpoint and say it missed the cut-off times and then say, oh, I walked with someone because they had a blister. or they were feeling a bit down. So they need to be called in at the earliest opportunity. Anything serious, we will generously provide time back. There is an emergency SOS button on the GPS tracker. You press your SOS button only in the event of a race-ending emergency. Once that button's been pressed, you're out of the race. The first thing we will do then is try to call you, so make sure your phone is on, or even better still, call us first. You'll be shown where the SOS button is when you have your tracker fitted, if you haven't used them before. And if you come across someone who is injured, you should press their SOS button so we know who we are dealing with. And then, of course, give us a call so we know what's going on.
The course is easy to follow. It's well marked. It follows the Taff Trail. You've got a GPS on you at all times.
But invariably, one or two of you will run past one of the arrows whilst you're having a chat with a runner or just not paying attention. So if you are lost, the first thing to do is not to panic. The race number is on the map. So call us. We'll be able to see you on the GPS trace is the first instance. Then if you've got a GPS trace, you should try and get back onto the route. Then you can just retrace your steps and get back onto the route. Okay, retirements and trackers. If you retire, it must be at a checkpoint. Please report to the checkpoint manager. Please text or call the race director on that mobile phone number on the map. You can text, you can call, but you also need to return your GPS tracker to that checkpoint manager. Okay, and again, every time we use trackers, we always see one or two people driving down the M4 who've been picked up either at the finish or who've had to retire due to injury and have got collected by friends and then forgot to return their tracker. So just make sure you return it.
The tracking link is there. It's provided by Open Tracking, who are the best in the business. The link is also attached to this email that was sent out with the video brief, and it will be posted on our Facebook pages. And finally, good luck and have fun. And most importantly, look after each other.
Good luck, have fun, and we'll see you at the start line in Brecon.